of good and evil. So he is discussing the evil and whether it has got fundamental existence. So he is making a very clear distinction between the permanent and fundamental status of good and the resulting. It's a result. It can be dissolved also, the evil. Okay. So one is the cause. The cause is light. The cause is consciousness. The cause is good. But its effects in the round, the light, if it reduces itself, its effect is, its result is darkness. So this is what he's saying, that light exists by itself, but darkness does not exist by itself. It's a contingent condition. When it has got a semi-reality, it has got a semi-reality at the lowest level, but it can be dissolved by your change of consciousness. Okay, that's what he's saying. So what I said about light applies also to good. Good exists by itself, but evil does not exist by itself. It's a result of the good reducing itself. Okay, and it can be removed. So it's a temporary existence, and the other is permanent existence. Okay, so with this idea, and yesterday I was saying also that let us see some examples. Okay, so let me go on. So one example, very good example, how good can produce evil and evil can produce good. The very good example is the colonization of the European powers in the 18th and 19th century. 18th and 19th century. 20th century, the whole colonial setup had to be dissolved. And the dissolution started with the independence of India. Okay, the moment India became free, okay, 90%, 99% of the colonies had to give independence to their colonies. India was a sparking point. Okay. Yasmin, good morning.
Bonjour.
Bonjour, Yasmin. What happened yesterday?
I don't know. I got up in the morning and I got a severe catch in my back.
Oh my God. Okay,
so
now
I had to lie down one day. I couldn't get up. You know. No, now I'm much better.
That's good. That's good. And you are a doctor, you know what to do.
Yes, but I thought it's much better to lie flat on the bed.
Yeah.
So I couldn't attend the class.
Naturally, we were wondering what had happened to you. Anyway, so Yasmin, just a brief introduction of what we did yesterday. I was just talking to Sunki and Archanadi. He is discussing in this chapter the origin of evil and suffering. Okay, so he is telling us that good exists by itself, and evil, which is its seeming opposite, doesn't exist by itself. It's a result of good reducing itself. Okay, it's a result. It's impermanent. Okay, good exists like light. Light exists by itself. It is a fundamental existence, but not darkness. Darkness is a result. Like the shadow is a contingent reality. You switch off the light that is showing through in the shadow, there is no shadow. So exactly the same with evil and also death. Okay, even death. Evil, suffering, and all death, these things they can be removed. They are impermanent. Okay. So keep this in mind. And we have done this para yesterday, but we are redoing it. You have got the page 621. Yasmin, you have the text?
Sorry, I don't have Life Divine with me.
Okay, doesn't matter.
I can't read.
Okay, so I am reading each sentence and we'll see how accurately Sringa uses words. Okay, so this background is very clear now, isn't it? That evil, suffering, and death don't exist by themselves. They are results of the light, the consciousness, and immortality reducing themselves and manifesting themselves in the physical world. When you manifest yourself, there is a reduction, a diminution, and at a certain level and in a certain way, distortion also. There is actually no distortion. You are seeing the distortion. Okay. Your lenses, I am wearing spectacles, you can see, but if my spectacles are broken, then I will see something quite different. But if my spectacles are clear, I'll see the reality. So spectacles becoming clear is your consciousness becoming clear. Okay. Then you see the reality. So with this background, I start reading each sentence and we'll see the accuracy of words that he uses. I'm reading now the text. Again, of good and evil, it can be said that one exists by true consciousness, the other survives only by wrong consciousness. Now note the words exists. It is permanent. Good is permanent. But the other survives. It can be removed. Okay? It is using the words exist and survive. The other is not a fundamental reality. Otherwise, you would have used the word exist. It doesn't exist. It only survives. And survives how? When you are in the wrong consciousness, it survives. Okay. As he says in Life Divine elsewhere, good is permanently real. But the evil is something that is a temporary thing. He says, he uses very interesting words. Evil and suffering and death are positive in practical life, but negative in essence. Okay. They don't really exist by themselves. Negative in essence, positive in practical life. When we are down here, we can't say evil doesn't exist, death doesn't exist. We can't say that. It is practically true, but it is essentially untrue. Okay? So this is what he's saying in this sentence. Now, I go to the next phrase. If there is an unmixed true consciousness, good alone can exist. In other words, when I purify my consciousness and go up, then I see that evil is only a result. Okay, I see that light and darkness are both existing, but they are the same thing. It is the same thing in two different poles. The idea of sin and virtue also disappears in the same way. Okay, kindness and cruelty, again the same thing. Kindness is something fundamental, but cruelty is a degradation of kindness. It's a result of kindness reducing itself. Okay. So, good alone can exist if your consciousness is true and unmixed. Unmixed, again, mixture comes in and your sight becomes defective. Okay. It is no longer mixed with evil and formed in its presence. The evil is formed in the presence of untrue consciousness. Okay, so that's what it is. Human values of good and evil, such as truth and error, are indeed uncertain and relative. Now we'll look at this. Okay, he has told you. Now we'll read a little more. Okay, then we'll give examples. What is held as truth in one place or time is held in another place or time to be error. Okay, so this is also we have seen. Okay, we gave the examples yesterday of monogamy and polygamy. Those who think that it is wrong, is an idea, these are all relative ideas. And polygamy is perfectly a phenomenon which occurs, and it's based on biological facts. Okay, when the proportion of men and women is equal, 50-50, then there is no problem. And usually it is monogamous. Okay, but when the proportion changes, okay, that means to say the number of women increases and the number of men decreases. It happens sometimes due to all sorts of reasons. When that happens, then one man can have several wives, and that is what is called polyandry. Okay, it's a practice which is there in some countries. Okay, in some cultures also, particularly the Mormon culture in America. It started from Germany, but now they exist in America, Mormons, and their polyandry is very common. Okay, in fact, it is a term, it is a norm, it's a normal thing there. And the other thing, what about the other one? When the number of men increases and the the number of women decreases, then it's the other way around. Okay, one lady can have several husbands. Sorry, I gave it wrong. I said polyandry. Polyandry, this is polyandry. One woman having several husbands is polyandry. So these are all, your ideas of right and wrong are all absolutely unbased. There is no basis for that. This is one example. Okay. Then the other example is in time also. Yesterday we were discussing at one time during Oscar Wilde, for instance. Okay, he was such a magnificent writer, but he was jailed. He was jailed because they thought that he is a homosexual, and that was considered a great sin. Today it is not considered a sin. Most countries have passed a resolution saying that it is not a sin at all. Okay, it's something biological again. It is there in the human being. Your chemical composition, okay, attracts you to male or female, but sometimes it attracts you to the opposite. It's something biological. You can't have control over it. So therefore, the idea of sin has disappeared there also. Then, now I read the next one. We find too that what we call evil results in good, and what we call good results in evil. Now, the best example I can think of is the colonization, as I was telling you. Okay, all the European powers, they went into Africa and Asia and colonized, put down because the Asians at that time were very mild. Okay, India was never uncivilized, but it is a very mild culture. You have kindness and you have tolerance. You tolerate everybody, so they come easily and dominate you. And also at that time, India was in a downfall condition. Okay, there was a downfall. Now it is not the opposite; it's the opposite. So when the colonization came, it's one of the greatest social evils that you can think of. They loot, they burn, they take away everything that you have. It is horrible. In fact, it is calculated now that Britain benefited from India's wealth. They took away $40 trillion worth of stuff. They took away. So there's a calculation, there's a detailed calculation. So this was the evil for India, but it was good for America, for the UK, because they had the wealth. So evil is producing good, opposite people. But now what happens? Did that evil in India produce good? In a certain sense, yes, because they removed that federal structure. Okay, the federal structure was removed, and you had with modern ideas. Okay, like democracy, and they built the railways, and they established the tax system and all that. So there was a certain amount of good coming from that evil. It's all mixed always, and Sremda has referred to this. He says in the synthesis, you remember, he says that the country whose providence was spirituality had to undergo this indignity of being completely slave. Why? Because the progressive spirit, this is the word he uses, the progressive scientific spirit had gone away in India because of the influence of Buddhism and the Muslim conquests, and mainly Mayavada also. So there was a tremendous amount of rejection of the physical world. So naturally science also is rejected. Okay? But then there is a resurgence. And that resurgence was partly because of the British conquest. We changed the whole thing. So this is what somebody is saying, evil producing good and good producing evil. Okay, this is the thing. But now interesting, see what happens. Not maybe evil, but misfortune. What has happened in the Western countries? Okay, there is a backlash. And those whom they suppressed and made to suffer, now they are themselves being dominated by these. Look at the situation. In UK now, there is an Indian who is the Prime Minister. So it is a reversal of karma. Okay, it's very interesting. You can see it in that way. Okay. Then in America also, when these slaves were, they suffered like anything. But now it's the other way around. There is even a Negro who was president of America. Okay, so this is all the what Swami is saying, that evil produces good and good produces evil in the physical world. So evil is not something that is fundamentally true. Okay, so, we find too that what we call evil results in good. What we call good results in evil. But this untoward outcome of good producing evil is due to the confusion and mixture of knowledge and ignorance to the penetration of true consciousness by wrong consciousness, so that there is an ignorant or mistaken application of our good, or it is due to the intervention of afflicting forces. Okay? Afflicting forces. So this is what he is discussing. We can also have another example also. Okay, I will give my own example. I beg pardon, but it's an interesting example. When I was in the press, okay, there were a lot of changes took place, but because of jealousy, some small group of people wanted me out, and they had support, and they wanted me out. But I myself resigned. I resigned and came away because I said that my presence there will create a lot of chaos. So I said, I'll come out. Of course, everybody told me not to quit. Even the trustees wrote a letter to me saying, don't quit, please. They are already in great difficulty. But I said, I must know this. If I'm there, there'll be more confusion, and I quit. So that which was supposedly a misfortune for me turned out to be a fortunate, because I got into the right profession. Okay, when I was very young, I remember, okay, I was very interested in horoscope. What will my life be? And one of the factors in the horoscope was that you will, for a long time, you will be in the wrong profession. So I was in industry, okay, but that was the wrong profession. Now, after that, when I came to knowledge, 15, 20 years now it's about 20 years, it is supposed to be that I'm in the right profession. Okay, I'm giving an example, but I'm doing this just as I'm stressing this not for history's sake. I'm stressing this for the idea of how that which is supposed to be evil for someone turns out to be good for someone. Okay, so this is what, yeah, tell me. Something you were saying?
Rangada?
Yes.
Do you remember let's talk about Swabhava?
Yeah.
That's
That's right.
question.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, you told me that story, right?
That's right. My Swabhava is for teaching. Okay, it is true, because there was the proof is that there was a huge demand in knowledge. Okay, everybody wanted to use, if you know some, they will tell you that also. Okay, so it went to such an extent that I had to have 7 periods every day. I'm not telling you this out of pride. I'm just telling you as a fact. Okay, seven periods every day, and it's built on outside hours also, Sundays and evenings. Okay, so that proved that it was my right profession. Okay, so
May I ask a question?
go ahead.
You talked about horoscope.
Yeah.
So how can you believe that what the horoscope says is
You-
absolutely truth? It depends on who makes the horoscope and who reads the horoscope.
Absolutely, you are right. But is it a science or not? Okay, that's a question. So Sri Aurobindo says it's a science. Now, doesn't a doctor make a mistake? So if a doctor makes a mistake, can we say that medicine is not a science? So exactly in the same way, only difference is in medicine, not when you make mistakes, mostly it is right. But in horoscopes and in astrology, it is mostly wrong. I agree with you. Okay. But some get it right. Huh? Some do get it right. Okay. In fact, Sri Aurobindo says that his astrological forecast for his life turned out to be absolutely true. He says in the evening talks. Okay. In fact, he has got a small article on astrology, and he says that astrology certainly it can be a science. Okay. Now, what is interesting is in since we are talking about astrology is not that the position of the stars determine your future. It's not that. Okay. Then what is it? To say that the position of stars is determining your future is you are in the hands of somebody else. Whereas just the other day, as I was telling, we were discussing, and Archana ji asked that question, that you are the master of your own destiny. Okay? You yourself are making your own destiny. How can the stars make your destiny? Then what is the truth? The truth is this, that when there is something in the world, okay, there are reflections. Okay. For instance, if I look in water or I look in a mirror, there is a reflection of me. But that reflection is not me. Okay. So exactly in the same way, the reflection of one's fate is reflected in the position of stars. Okay. Think about it. It's exactly that. It's a reflection. So if you examine the reflection, you can know who it is, isn't it? If I see your reflection in the mirror, I will know that it is Archana. I will know that it is Yasmin. But I'm not seeing you. I'm seeing only the reflection. So this is astrology is based on that. Astrology is based on the position of the stars for that particular person, where he was born, latitude, longitude, and that is the reflection. So there is a truth in that. Okay. And just to tell you, Sri Aurobindo himself said that 3 forecasts were made about him, and they all came true. Number 1. But what about the other thing? Okay, the most striking one, when Raman Maharshi passed away, okay, there is a huge star, shooting star, that went across the sky. It was 9 o'clock at night, and we were all sitting in the playground, and mother looked up also, and she said, a great soul has passed away. Next day in the papers, Raman Maharshi is passing away. Okay, so what is the connection? He is passing away in the physical world. How can it have a connection in the sky? So there is a connection. That connection is the fate. Your fate, individual fates are reflected in a particular way. You can say, but the stars and the cosmos is infinite and you are a finite. How can that be? That is the reason why your date of birth and your time of birth and your place of birth is very important. Okay, that limits it. Certainly astrology is a science. It can be a science. Like, mother said about photography, when we had a photographic exhibition in the ashram, and if the question arose whether photography can be an art, people will say, how can it be an art? It's mechanical. It can't be an art. So mother said something very interesting. She said, photography is an art when the photographer is an artist. Okay, so it's conditional. Exactly the same way, astrology also can be right, but you don't need to take it in that way. Okay, some things do come out right. Okay.
But mother has also said that if the stars rule your destiny, then who rules the destiny of the stars? Rather appeal to him, no?
No, see, the thing is like this, the destiny of everything is determined by the Supreme. Okay, by the Supreme, the Lord. the Ishvara, Uttama Purusha. But that decision also is subject to the law of diminution. When the light descends into the darkness, there is a distortion. And that distortion, it becomes your individual fate. But everything is decided from on top. There's no doubt about that. That Sumkya was just now talking about Swadharma and Swabhava. Okay? The Swabhava, your soul's destiny, is fixed by the divine only. Okay? You can have the Swabhava. And that gets, you realize, it's not the outer profession. It gets reflected sometimes in the outer profession, but your Swabhava is this Swabhava of the soul, not the body mind life. Okay. We have gone very far away from our discussion. Okay, so but it's all relevant. Okay. All right, so shall we continue with our text? What is the time? 8:26. We have got time. We have got 15 minutes. So I go to the next sentence. In the opposite case of evil producing good, the happier and contradictory result is due to the intervention of some true consciousness and force acting behind. There you are. And in spite of wrong consciousness and wrong will, or it is due to the intervention of redressing forces. And redressing force, one of the redressing forces is divine grace. Okay? Is divine grace. Okay? That can happen. I remember one person who was, in fact, my father only, okay? I can tell you. He suddenly had a bad, he entered a bad phase of life, okay? And he had to got into trouble. Then I wrote to mother about it, and mother said that he deserves the divine grace. And immediately that problem that he had disappeared. So that is a redressing force that Shri is talking about. The intervention of redressing force. Redress, it corrects the thing. So maybe in the same way, mine also, what was supposed to be an exit from a field where I had worked for 40 years, okay. I entered in the field where it was good for me. So this is how it works. Evil becomes good and good becomes evil. Okay. So, this relativity, this mixture is a circumstance of human mentality and the working of the cosmic force in human life. There you are, even Srimla is confirming it. This relativity, this mixture is a circumstance of human mentality. It's a circumstance. And the working of the cosmic force in human life. So very clearly is establishing the connection between the cosmic forces and human life. What could be clearer than this? Huh? Very clear. It is not the fundamental truth of good and evil. Okay. It might be objected that physical evil, now he's saying psychological evil and physical evil. Physical evil such as pain and most bodily suffering is independent of knowledge and ignorance, nothing to do with consciousness, of right and wrong consciousness, inherent in physical nature. So he's saying, what about your explanation of evil? Because your physical suffering is an evil, okay? But it's nothing got to do with consciousness. That's what the argument is against what Srimla is saying. Srimla is himself raising the argument, okay, against his own contention. And then he will again give the explanation. Okay. So, now, what Srimla is saying next. Okay? He has raised the question, now he is answering. But fundamentally, all pain and suffering are the result of an insufficient consciousness force in the surface being, which makes it unable to deal rightly with self and nature, or unable to assimilate and to harmonize itself with the context of the universal energy. This is the explanation. Okay, it's very clear. Okay, I'm taking a bath. Okay, now the universe the world outside has produced the hot water, okay, and I am having a bath. Okay. When my capacity to bear the heat of that hot water is okay, I am in a very pleasant condition. Okay. When that hot water becomes too much and by mistake I put it on myself, I suffer. So in other words, the forces of the world, okay, when they are coming to you, it depends on your physical suffering, depends also on your capacity to bear the incoming cosmic forces. Okay. I also usually give the example of wind. Nah? A wind is very gentle and soft and breeze. You are able to tolerate it because your conscious, your enabled, your bodily capacity is just enough to absorb that shock and it is very pleasant for you. But suppose it becomes a most violent storm, then your capacity to bear it is too little. The storm is much bigger than your capacity to bear, you suffer. Okay? So that's exactly what Swami means. Okay? So there is a connection between individual suffering and the cosmic forces. And that also gets reflected in the stars, because the stars also are all cosmic forces. Okay? So now I read that sentence again and continue. But fundamentally, all pain and suffering are the result of an insufficient consciousness force in the surface being, which makes it unable to deal rightly with self and nature, or unable to assimilate and harmonize itself with the context of the universal energy. I'll give you two more examples, very interesting. Okay, illness is not something only physical. Okay? Vivekananda gave a very interesting dictum. He said that the cause of anything at any level, the cause, the reason for it is to be found in the subtler world above it. Okay, so the cause of everything is above, it's the next level above, next level above. In other words, if you keep on going, the divine is the cause of everything. He is the one who causes the whole cosmos. But again, then you may wonder, then why is he causing suffering? Again, the law of diminution and distortion comes in. Okay, so then this is how you can explain. So I said I'll give you an example. Okay, I give you, I think I already told you once, but we have to link all these examples. Then it becomes very, very easily understandable. Kemi Ben was a wonderful teacher, and Yasmin definitely knows her. The other two, you don't know her because she passed away. But she was a wonderful teacher, and she told me this herself. She had a very bad skin. Her skin was very bad. Okay. So she went and told mother, and mother told her that when you reject something from the mind, a problem from the mind, you reject it violently, a thought that is bothering you, it goes into the vital. And when you clean up your vital and clean the vital, the dirt in the vital goes into the body. So now, is the bodily thing not connected with your consciousness? Very clearly it is. Okay? So it's not purely physical. There's always that. Now what happens? If you are a yogi and you reject it even from the body, just like Sri Aurobindo could and mother also could at a certain time, okay, it goes into the subconscious. And it goes into subconscious, and again it goes into the inconscient and finally remains there. Nothing disappears. Everything is recorded. Okay, so you can see the connection, and we keep repeating now, the individual and the cosmos are intimately connected. The cosmos is an individual consciousness which has expanded itself. And the individual is the cosmic forces and events which has condensed itself into an individual. So there is a great connection between the universe and the individual. So even that will point out to the fact that the individual fate, its reflection can be seen in the cosmos. That's the thing. So all these are related ideas, and they all make sense when you put them side by side. Okay. Okay. Then So I said I would read that. Now I'll read again the same thing. Okay. So, but fundamentally, all pain and suffering are the result of an insufficient consciousness force in the surface being, which makes it unable to deal rightly with self and nature, or unable to assimilate and to harmonize itself with the context of the universal energy. Okay? They would not exist if in us there were an integral presence of the luminous consciousness and the divine force of an integral being. That's why when you rise in consciousness, there's no more evil in you. And if you rise in consciousness even more, there cannot even be death for you, because the body will pass away, but the soul, the true personality, you know that you are immortal. They would not exist. What is the they? Evil, suffering, these things would not exist in us if there were an integral presence. Note about integral. You might wonder, then why did Shrimda have to suffer, or mother had to suffer the illness? We spoke about illness now. So Shrimda is saying very clearly, each word, see how important it is. Integral presence of the luminous consciousness and the divine force of an integral being. So there is a gradation. If it is integral, no evil, no suffering, nothing. But if you come down a little bit, the gradation at the lowest level, there is suffering and death and pain. But as you keep climbing up, it becomes less and less and less. Okay? They would not exist if in us there were an integral presence of the luminous consciousness and the divine force of an integral being. Therefore, the relation of truth to falsehood, of good to evil, is not a mutual dependence. Okay? Good doesn't depend on evil, but evil depends on good. Okay? But is in the nature of a contradiction as of light and shadow. He is giving an example of light and shadow also. Shadow is dependent on light, but light is not dependent on shadow. A shadow depends on light for its existence, but light does not depend for its existence on the shadow. Okay? So evil depends only on the good reducing itself conditionally. The relation between the absolute and these contraries of some of its fundamental aspects is not that they are opposite fundamental aspects of the absolute. Falsehood and evil have no fundamentality. They don't exist by themselves. But there are many religions which say that no, they are. Okay, there is God and there is the devil, and both exist permanently. But that's not true. Okay, so I'm very clear about it. Falsehood and evil have no fundamental reality, no power of infinity or eternal being, no self-existence, even by latency in the self-existence, no authenticity of an original inherence. So what he is now saying is very interesting. At the supreme level, you may feel that the potentiality of suffering is there. Otherwise, how does it come into being? But Srinath is saying very clearly, no, not even in potentiality, not even in latency. Light is light, absolutely. It's a result at a lower level that darkness comes in. So good is absolute in the divine. But when that good wants to manifest itself, it becomes subject to diminution and finally distortion also, and that is a result of evil. So, very clear. And so the discussion was interesting. So now you know how evil and suffering and all these things are coming in. Okay? Ignorance starts at the overmind level. But where does the evil and suffering start? He will look further on and he will tell you that it starts at the life level. There is no suffering and there is no evil in matter. But as soon as life comes in, this evil and suffering starts. Because consciousness is half, not even half, just struggling to come out. Okay? So it is a very interesting paragraph and very deep and many aspects to it. We have discussed many aspects of it, but you have to put them all together side by side, and then your understanding of things will increase like anything. Okay. So we stop here today. I hope I have been clear enough. Okay. But you have to reread the paragraph and see how beautiful it is. The explanation is so clear. Okay. It is no doubt.
Merci beaucoup.
Okay. Au revoir.
Thank you, Ranga.
Okay, Sunki. Note down.
Thank you. Yes, I will.
No doubt. Okay.
Yes, I will.
All right.